Hello everyone and welcome to a very special video. Today, with the pandemic we have currently, we thought that it would be a good idea to have some interviews with some pro cyclists and see how they're experiencing this lockdown. So without further ado, here's Deceuninck-Quickstep's pro rider, Mikkel Honore of Denmark. I'm delighted to be joined by Mikkel Honore of Deceuninck-Quickstep. Thank you for joining us, Mikkel.
Thank you for letting me come in. I'm very happy to be here in these times. We're all in lockdown, so it's good to be busy with some nice podcast.
So first off, how are you finding it keeping fit? How has your training regime changed from what you normally do to, is it less volume or?
Yeah, I mean, I broke, so I had some fractures on my back in a crash in 1st of March. So I've been necessary to have a break of 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks off. And then I restarted slowly 2 weeks ago. And so it just an off season, trying to enjoy riding as much as possible. In Denmark, we're still allowed to ride outside. So I really appreciate that right now. If you look on other countries like Italy, France, or Spain, nobody is allowed to ride outside. So I'm just really happy to be able to ride on the bike, especially even after my fractures on the vertebrae. So I'm basically more or less able to ride outside, almost pain-free. And for me, that's already a big step forward.
Was the reason you're in Denmark, because you don't actually live in Denmark, you live in Italy, was that because of your recovery? And it was actually lucky that you were in Denmark and not Italy?
Yeah, actually, so I went like after my visit to the hospitals and everything. I went on holiday to Spain. I said now, I'm gonna go to Spain, enjoy the sun, go outside on the beach, relax. But after I think 4 or 5 days there, Spain went into full lockdown, and Denmark as well. I was there with family in Spain, so we decided to go back home to Denmark. Yeah, and then the situation is moving, getting better and better slowly, but I mean, it's still better to be here than in Italy for sure.
For sure. So what was kind of your 2020 goals before your injury? Did you have anything in mind? This is your second season as a pro, so what was the kind of thing that you were looking for?
I would say my main goal for the whole season was actually the Giro for this year. I can say my preparations was going really well. I went 3 weeks to Colombia with the team, had a good altitude camp there, came back, trained for 1 week, 2 weeks, and felt really good in Ardèche and Drôme. And then unfortunately I crashed in Drôme, so I can say somehow, in the end, with the whole situation of the coronavirus, I mean, it's probably the best moment to break your back as well. Because in the end, okay, I can say a bit egoistic, I didn't lose any racing, but of course I would always prefer this situation would never happen, because I mean, financially for the whole world, and for the cycling world especially as well, it's gonna be hit very hard, without doubt.
That's very true. So if we go to a bit brighter question here, other than focusing on the coronavirus, how did you get into cycling? Coming from Fredericia in Denmark, how did you kind of get in? How did you start getting into cycling and there go on to become a pro? What was kind of the key milestones for you?
I mean, it all actually, if you look to the really, really start from everything, it was from my grandfather. who was a former cyclist himself. Um, you know, he was like an amateur professional until he was 25 and then stopped, and but always kept the passion with him. And in 2004, I remember very clearly, I had my first, how do you say, type of Grand Fondo race with him. I was only 7 years old, so I was not allowed to ride, officially races. So I had a race with him, and unfortunately, he died of an ictus 2 weeks after. But anyway, our family got into cycling from that. My brother raced as well and stopped in under 23s, and then I just continued on and fell for the bike completely.
So you made it on to, well, I can't pronounce the race, but you won a Belgian GC race twice.
Yes, in Martino's Prize, I won twice in Belgium.
Yeah.
As junior, first and second year, and I think together only with another good Marcel Kittel, he won it as well twice. So it's a good statistic.
It's a good name to follow.
But anyway, and then after as a junior, I got the possibility to join Lotto Soudal under 23 team.
Was that on the back of that result then? Those two results that you noticed in Belgium?
Yeah, I would say mainly those two races, and then also I won a stage in the Nations Cup, Trophée Morbihan in France with the national team. So I would say primarily those races made me, get the opportunity to go to Belgium and pursue my dreams in becoming a professional. And I enjoyed riding in Belgium and living there. It was an amazing experience. While it was a bit difficult also while studying in Denmark, but I mean I was really happy to try that. And afterwards moving to Virtu, and then from there I got the opportunity to ride with Deceuninck-Quickstep last year.
So, just taking it a bit slower.
Yeah.
So you also went to you've been at the Baby Giro, as they call it, and you've been to the Tour de l'Avenir as well. So you've been to all the top level under 23 races, and one of them was while you were riding for Lotto Soudal. And at that Tour de l'Avenir, how was it racing like with the Danish national team? Because didn't you win team time trial stage as well?
Yeah, exactly. We won the team time trial. We had a really strong team. In particular, if you look back on now, how many pros who were in that team, I'd say it's actually all of us. It's double world champion, triple world champion Michael Bjerg, Mathias Norsker, who is now in Movistar, Andreas Krohn is in Rival, Stockbro in NTT, and so Jonas Vingegaard in Lotto Jumbo. So we did an amazing TTT there. Was really, I would say, so far one of my best experience, because was just so fast, and with these guys riding around in France was just a super nice experience.
This was the edition Tadej Pogačar one.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say most of us was surprised by his level, but if you look on his results now, everybody would understand why we were, dropped from him on the climbs, etc. This young guy, Pogačar, just smashing everybody was really, really impressive to watch. But now we all understand, I'd say.
Was that your longest stage race until then?
Yeah, until then it was my longest. As I remember, it was 10 days in Tour de l'Avenir that year, because we had also one rest day. So that was the longest, together with the Baby Giro the year before I did, which was, I think, 7 stages or so, where Sivakov won.
So after the Tour de l'Avenir, you went into Stagiaire with Deceuninck-Quickstep? or were you doing it before?
I started as stagiaire just after 2011 year. So you are from the 1st of August, but I didn't race. We arranged with the Quickstep that I would, still like to continue on racing with the national team at 2011 here, and then start with some Belgium races. I think I started with Brussels Cycling Classic in start of September, just after 11 year. And from there it all went super fast.
Do you think you've covered all of Belgium racing for Deceuninck-Quickstep and Lotto Soudal?
More or less, I'd say so. I think with Lotto we did so many races around Belgium, and now with the Quickstep as well. It's not the worst country to be riding your bike, is it? It's with the fans, with the culture there. It's just it all says cycling, so it's amazing.
What was your favorite kind of races riding for Lotto Soudal? Did you get to choose your races, or was it kind of you were just thrown into everything?
I mean, that was my first and second year under 23, so most of the races I was just more or less thrown into. So, I did mostly races in we did mostly races in Belgium. Then Tour d'Alsace, I remember, a super, super nice race I did with Lotto. And it's hard to say, but I would say one of my favorite races was the Tour of Alsace with Lotto Soudal.
And so you had your stagiaire role, and then you came into your first season with the Deceuninck-Quickstep. How was the winter training? How was going from, well, in Denmark, we call it being an amateur. Well, I don't think that when you're living like under 23, Lotto Soudal, you're really an amateur. You really are like on the way to being a full-blown pro. So how was it going from the Tour de l'Avenir to the best team in the world, basically?
Well, it's still changed a lot, I'd say. I mean, okay, I already lived abroad. I was already quite established where I lived in Italy, while doing my third year as an under 23, and then going to the Deceuninck-Quickstep. I'd say the biggest change was now you had a full-time how do you say, coach, nutritionist. You had a full team behind you to support you in every kind of way. You had training camps in December, training camp in January, I started racing already in Tour of Down Under, which didn't go too well. I got sick there with some fever, and afterwards I got home. I said, okay, now we arranged with the team. I got a good 3 weeks training period to get back in shape, and then I was selected for the Ardennes Classics, and and from then it's just it went so fast, and it's a big difference in terms of the team, of the full support you have behind you, etc.
So you did something a lot of riders don't actually do in their very first season as a pro as well. You actually got to ride Grand Tour, and not just the Grand Tour, the Giro d'Italia, which is my favorite. And what was that like? And we actually did meet at the Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, it was amazing. For me, in my years of cycling so far, the Giro d'Italia was the absolute biggest experience riding my first Grand Tour. When I think back of all the suffering of how hard the race was, it's incredible. And me myself living in Italy and having an Italian girlfriend and half Italian, family with her, it was very special and very important for me. So that was a really, really special time for me, and which I hope to do again at this year.
Yeah, we fingers crossed that the Giro will actually happen. You actually did a really good result on your first stage there, which was in Bologna up San Luca. You actually came 32nd. How did you feel Can you remember what that climb was like?
Yeah, actually, I remember very well because I already before in the race, I felt quite good in training. I came out of the Ardennes Classics quite well, and had some good preparation. Of course, I have to say I only got the selection after Flèche Wallonne, so it was like 2 weeks before the Giro. So yeah, physically there was not much preparation to do or to change, but I was feeling well, and on the San Luca climb I knew it quite good because we did the recognition there, and yeah, the feeling was super nice, super good crowds there. My whole family from Denmark was there, and yeah, I think that day in Bologna was, I think, one of the highlights from the race for me personally as well.
So, a lot of riders describe how they, in their first Grand Tour, they have this fatigue that they've never felt before.
Yeah.
Like day after day after day. Did you feel that at all, or were you just like machining it through?
Oh, I felt it absolutely. I can say I never been so fatigued before in my life. I mean, you go day after day and you say now you can absolutely not do anymore. Now you're completely now you cannot, you're just done. But somehow over the night you get energy and you get better, and somehow in the last week you say now 3 more days, 2 more days to go. But yeah, you in the end, you understand how much you can push your body, and I think that gives you also a big advantage in other times of life. If it's from training or from everything else, you can really push yourself more after going so much over the limit. And I think that was one of the most biggest important lessons for me during my first Grand Tour.
Was Bologna basically your favorite stage, or were any of the mountain stages also nice?
I'd say the Queen stage when I went in the break on Motirolo, that was.
How did you feel about Motorola?
Wow, that was one hell of a climb. It was a really tough climb, but yeah, after pulling the first 10 days of the Giro was hard to recover well in the last week after all the efforts. But I mean, I was quite happy with my shape there on Motirolo, and of course you always want to do better, but with all the spectators there and the crowds on Motirolo in rain and 2 degrees on the top, that was really spectacular.
It must be amazing to think that you're racing on like a climb where Contador, Pantani, all the
Exactly. That's what I really love about the Giro or every other Grand Tour. All the history with all the big riders and all the big climbs, etc. All these climbs you do with names like you say Contador, Pantani, etc. riding there. As a kid you think back and now you're riding there yourself. It's quite crazy.
Who was your favorite rider growing up? Was there one rider where you looked to?
I'd say, of course, I had a few over the years, but I would say when I think back, my main idol favorite rider was Philippe Gilbert. Since he won the Worlds in Falkenburg, I always said that guy is incredible. And then sharing a room with him after a few years, it's even more crazy. And getting advice for him. And now, I mean, I think after riding on a team with him, he's even more a kind of idol for me. How he keeps himself motivated every year to have success, to win races. That's, I think, even more impressive than just winning the Worlds. I mean, he's now been a professional for more than 10, 15 years and still super hungry to win Milan-San Remo or Lombardy again. So
that was a
shame. That's really impressive, and for sure one of my biggest idols ever in cycling.
Yeah, it was a shame that Milan-San Remo got cancelled, so he couldn't win all the monuments.
Exactly. I hope he got a chance again next year probably. So, but I mean, still, when you think about it, it's crazy. I think Milan-San Remo was not even cancelled during the Second World War. So
Yeah.
that's when you think about it, that's quite crazy.
And you've seen some of the snowy weathers over the years that they've been cycling through, where they kind of just cancelled the race for a bit and then they continued.
Exactly. I remember that year as well, watching it, where they stopped in the buses, and then after the snow was over, they could continue right to San Remo. That's spectacular as well.
So is a rider like Philippe Gilbert, is that how you would describe yourself? Kind of a puncher, or are you more a climber in former mountains? Or what's kind of, how
It's
have you, you're very young still, but have you found like a kind of rider that you think you're molding towards?
I'd say it's I'm still like in a mix of being, more if I want to focus more on the climbs or a bit more on the shorter climbs. And personally, at the moment, I think it's better for me like on the shorter climbs, like the Ardennes. That's my favorite kind of terrain, up and down all day. Like in France as well, in Ardèche, where I was the seventh in March. So that's just a lot of climbing, but not too long climbs. I think that's my preferably terrain to ride in. And yeah, I mean, maybe in 1 year I would say something different, but and to compare myself with someone like Gilbert is like crazy. But of course, it's some kind of rider I would like to develop into, to try to be a bit more explosive and have a better finish for the races.
So as a pro now, how was it coming back to the um, Danish National Championships? Did you feel like you belonged more? And you also came with two teammates in form of Kasper Askren and Michael Mørker. So did you feel more dominant in a way because you were coming as a World Tour pro?
Well, of course, before I only raced the national elite champs alone with Lotto. And I mean, having two riders like Casper and Michael was also a great advantage for us. And I mean, both of them and myself was in a super good shape. Me after riding my first Grand Tour, and Michael and Casper just before the Tour de France. So I mean, riding there was we were feeling quite dominant. Of course, after how successful our season was last year. And but anyhow, I mean, the level in Denmark, you cannot really, it's really high as well. And most of the continental riders have the level of a lot of World Tour riders. So it was absolutely not easy to do what we did. Becoming first and second was super hard. But I mean, it also shows how good we ride together as a team in Quickstep, and how good we work together.
So you kind of alluded to that. You have the Deceuninck-Quickstep wolf pack mentality, which has been bombarded around different social media. What does that actually, is that something like the team ethos that you all kind of feel, or you just explain what is it? Is it just like
Well, I mean, it is something special. I mean, I came into the team last year with only me and Remco were new riders, and all the riders more or less took us into this kind of culture of being kind of a family. And we are just all feeling like close friends, and enjoying to ride together, and always trying to win. I think that's the main difference, I cannot say from other teams, but that's our main advantage, that we always go 110% for the best rider in the team. No matter if it's a big rider or smaller rider, we go for the strongest. And yeah, we do 110% for each other, and that's probably why we also win more races.
Is the Tour de France something that you're looking at to be part of one day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the biggest event in cycling, and for me, the Giro d'Italia is super special. But I have to say still that the Tour de France is just the Tour de France. It's something you have to and you want to ride as a cyclist because it's the biggest event there is, and where there is the most attention and the most history. So for sure, I mean, for me, it's a big goal to ride the Tour, and I would really hope and love to ride it next year, and when we have a start in Copenhagen next year. So
Oh yeah, true. It's in Denmark.
something really special for sure.
So you alluded to this before as well, that in your Tour de l'Avenir squad, all the riders now are either Pro Continental or World Tour. How is it kind of being part of this golden generation for Danish cycling? We have the world champion, we have Jakob Fuglsang, who seems to be winning anything that's going up at the moment. And how does it feel is it just great that Denmark is on the map for cycling? And we also have the pursuit team as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all motivate each other. So when Jacob does well in all the spring classics, afterwards you see Mads Pedersen winning the worlds, and I mean it's super special. But I think it's like, we see somebody winning a race and we know each other so well, and we think, if this guy he can win. Valgren wins Amstel Gold Race, then I can win as well. Or I mean, that's what how we motivate each other, and it all, success makes more success, and that's how I think this generation is just getting better and better. And you see even now, if you look on the juniors or young under 23s now as well, I think there's just more coming up, and it's super good for Danish cycling. And yeah, I'm so proud of being part of this generation and riding around, training. I mean, now I'm here in Fredericia, and when I think back, I don't think there were so many, or there were no pro tour or world tour cyclists, and now we have a group of 4 or 5 World Tour or Pro Tour riders training together here. So that's just super cool and super nice.
It was kind of after Bjarne Riis unfortunately sold his team.
Yeah.
That was a sad day for Danish cycling, but it seems like you guys have saved it. We don't need a Danish team anymore. You'll just take all the teams anyway.
Yeah, we made kind of a risk spread around all the World Tour teams. So we're not so much together maybe in terms of teams, but we have me, Kasper, and Michael, of course, in one team. But I mean, we are all on very different teams, and I think that might be a good thing as well. I mean, that's maybe why we all have so much success as we have till now.
It's going to be a very packed Tour de France next year in Denmark, with all the World Tour teams pushing their Danish riders forwards into the squad.
Yeah, exactly. I hope so. I mean, it would be, the teams know of obviously as well for a Danish rider, it's even bigger to ride the Tour. But I mean, for everyone, no matter where it starts, it's something big and something a lot of riders dream of and want to, of course.
That's basically all the questions I have. Thank you very much, Mikkel, for your time. It's been a delight and really interesting insight into your career as a pro cyclist. So thanks very much for joining.
Thank you for letting me in. I'm super happy to join your podcast and our YouTube video, Scott.
Podcast, YouTube.
Yeah, whatever you call it these days.
Yeah.
So many different kind of medias.
Yeah, thanks for that, and hopefully see you next time as well.
Yeah, see you next time.
So that's it for the interview with Mikkel Honore. This is in fact not the first time I've interviewed him. We also met at the Giro d'Italia last year, so if you want to check out the video, you can click here. And as always, thank you for watching and see you next time.